probably some tickets available tonight for the Blue Jays and Mariners as the Jays go for the sweep. Joining us to talk about it, Sportsnet's Arash Madani. And if I saw this correctly, Arash, and by the way, sir, it's been far too long. Jays attendance up 59%, leading the majors. That was before this week's homeset against the Mariners. But how are we on the Bluebirds this week?
Well, this is what they needed, Rod. I mean, they just went on a road trip where they were just dreadful. They couldn't hit. Their bullpen at times started to fall apart, and their starting pitching was a bit of an adventure, and they couldn't hit. Did I mention that already? But then they come home, they get these two with the Mariners, and now Cincinnati is coming to town this weekend, and the Reds are absolutely dreadful. So the offense still hasn't gotten going. I mean, it's funny. It feels that outside of George Springer, their next most productive hitter is Santiago Espinal. Who would have thought that? So the roof is now open. That's the other thing. So I think attendance is going to, continue to spike here. But once the summer rolls around, I was actually looking into tickets for some friends for this summer, and some are hard to find. Some games are already hard to find, and it's the 18th of May. So that's the story.
Well, like I said, I saw attendance up 59%, leading the majors. I almost, Bud, texted you, almost, on this road trip and just said, should we be concerned? But I always hated when people texted me when I was on the rider beat for 20 years. So I refrained. But if you're telling me that they can't hit with this lineup, then that tells me that it's just a little bit of a swoon because they're way more powerful than what they've shown over the last, before the Seattle series.
Yeah, you have to think so. At some point, track record has got to take over. Teoscar Hernandez is a two-time reigning Silver Slugger Award winner. He hasn't gotten going since coming back off the injured list. Once he does, that is huge because at some point they're going to have to pitch to somebody. And right now, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is not getting any pitches to hit. So if Teoscar gets going, if Bichette gets a little more consistency, if Chapman's bat starts to go, then that opens things up for Vlad, which is a big part of all this as I try and dodge this light behind me. So that's a significant piece to this whole equation because Vlad hit 3 home runs, Rod, last month at Yankee Stadium. And since, nobody's giving him much to hit in the zone. And when there's not much protection behind him or in front of him, that's going to continue. If that changes, look out.
For sure, but you talk about the road trip. Swept in New York in 2 games. Did we really see the Yankees being this good? And are they going to be able to keep the pedal to the metal at this clip the rest of the way?
Yeah, and did I see it coming? No. Did I see the bullpen being this dominant? Not a chance. And pedal to the metal is actually a really good analogy here because, Roddy, they are going full throttle here in May. And that's going to be interesting to see how sustainable this can be. I mean, Aaron Judge has bet on himself. I didn't see this coming at all. This guy is mashing all over the place. So can this continue with a 36-year-old Josh Donaldson, with Giancarlo Stanton, who spends almost, it feels, as much time on the injured list as he's not, with question marks behind the plate? So far, so good. But, I think this is important to remember. There's 120 or so games to go. There's a lot of baseball left. It was around this time in 2019, the Nationals were 12 games below 500, and they went on to win the World Series that year. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen to a team that's scuffling right now, but, Sparky Anderson would always say, get to the end of May, be 500 after 60 games, be healthy after 60 games, and with 100 games left, that's when the season really starts. So let's see where the chips fall once things really get going.
Well, I keep checking my score app and seeing them losing, and I'm like, but in my mind, I see your face going, "It's May, it's May." I see your face in my okay. Arash says it's May, so I'll just calm down. Hey, I never talked to DuPont about this earlier, the resident Leafs fan, along with Clark, but I'll put it to you. The Brain Trust says yesterday, no changes. Your take on this Leaf season, and did you think there should be, Your take on it all and what came out of Scotiabank Arena yesterday, if you don't mind.
I actually filled in for McAuliffe yesterday on Tim and Friends, Rod, and I had quite a commentary on the state of affairs. You lose 6 straight times in the first round. You lose over and over again the first round. And nothing is going to be different. Nothing's different. They're going to bring back the same team president, the same GM, the same coach, and the same core of players. Now, how does that make sense?
Whoops.
Yeah. It's actually amazing that through all this, Roddy, it almost feels like the way that Dubas and Shanahan spoke yesterday, like, we're so close. We're so close. We didn't lose as badly this year as we have in other years. The benchmark, these people seem to think, is getting through the first round. It is so puzzling. It's bizarre. It's baffling. It's actually bordering on pure delusion that they feel doing the same thing, running the whole thing back, bringing the same cast of characters again, is going to make all the difference. And the reality is that it's not, because it's proven that it's not. You often talk about track record and precedent and the rest. I have a hard time believing that MLSE is going to continue with this, but I just don't know who Brendan Shanahan reports to anymore. I don't know who's in charge anymore, but they just feel that what they're doing is going to work, and yet every spring it doesn't work.
Can I ask you this, just as a outsider of that market? Is there anybody in that office that goes, well, it worked with the Raptors? Now, Masai Ujiri isn't running the Toronto Maple Leafs, but is there any of that thinking? Hey, we did it with the NBA team, we can do it with the NHL team. You ever hear anything like that coming out of there?
Well, if you're going to go down that road, a few things. One, let's remember they win in 2019, right? 2016, that's a Raptor team that got to the conference finals. They took LeBron and the Cavs. Well, LeBron and the Cavs allowed them to go 6 games in 2016. So it's not just getting out of the first round that was the issue. And then, again and again, LeBron and the Cavs knocked them out. So what happened after the 2018 playoffs, Rod? Major shakeup. Dwayne Casey out. DeMar DeRozan traded.
Ooh.
A first-round pick, from the year before, along with DeMar, and they went for it. Say whatever you will about Kawhi Leonard being a lottery ticket, but it paid off. There was a major shakeup that led to the championship. They added Marc Gasol at the deadline. They went for it. They did something different. This Maple Leafs team is just saying, we're going to do the same thing again.
Wow.
There are a lot of people who are saying, okay, well, you got to walk before you run, and you got to, pay your dues to get the breakthrough to finally get a championship. I believe all of that. But the Washington Capitals, before they had their breakthrough, would almost always get through the first round. The Boston Bruins, before Zdeno Chara finally lifted the cup, would always get through the first round. This is a team that can't even do that. It's almost like they believe there's a Stanley Cup waiting for them after they get through the opening round of the playoffs.
Very, very interesting parallel with the Raptors and what happened there. I'm glad I asked. Never thought about it that way. Lastly, we got about a minute to 90 seconds. The CFL fans want to know your thoughts on the strike and where it's going.
I'm assuming it's going to be over soon. I've seen the same reports everybody else has. Rod, if this is how Randy Ambrosie and the league governors want to be partners with the league, what if they didn't? What if they didn't? If you want to be partners with somebody, do you really begin bargaining a few weeks before camp? Do you really offer a 10-year CBA, make a 10-year CBA offer without any increases? You really want to be partners and say player safety is important to us, but padded practices are mandatory? You really want to be partners, but you cut off talks? it just feels like there are boilerplate statements that Randy just sticks to that have been fed to him by his communication staff, and those are what he relies on. Let's remember, Ambrosi went in front of the House of Commons Finance Committee basically 2 years ago today, asked for $150 million from the federal government and said, we want to be partners with you. Well, if this is the way he's going to be partners with the players, I think the big winner here are Canadian taxpayers, because this is the way the league wants to be in business with their partners. How much of that loan do you think the CFL is going to be paying back?
I didn't have any money to pay it back. Exactly. Well, yes, we will cover them when they get back on the field, but a lot of the problems will remain. But for the players' sake, I hope it's as fair as it can be and play ball. This has been a wonderful update, Arash. Thanks for this, and keep up the great work, my man.
You got, and if you see Randorf again in one of those games, give him my best, will you?
I absolutely will.
Give him hell for me, too, by the way.
For?
Give him hell for me, too.
Oh, I thought there was something specific that you wanted me to give him hell for.
No.
Okay, yeah, I will. Yeah, we had a great chat last night. Thank you, man. Sportsnet's Arash Madani with us from the T-Dot. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the RP Show on YouTube. And don't forget, we're live daily on YouTube from noon to 2 Eastern. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. And if you like the program, check around for other segments of The Rod Pedersen Show here on YouTube.